what time did we call the order?
7:04.
7:04. Would you lead the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was pretty good.
Remind me of that when I was a kid.
Exactly. All right, roll call.
Bryce,
Here.
Hayden,
Present.
MacArthur,
Here.
McAvinci,
Here.
Nivelt,
Here.
and Palshin is absent with notice.
Yes. Here we have this agenda from, well, today's agenda. Looked all through it. Seems to be,
I would like to add something on the agenda.
does anyone have anything to add to the agenda? Go ahead.
I would like to add status of the 2 planning commission seats.
Are you making a motion then?
New business?
Well, if someone else may want to add to the agenda as well.
Okay, that's one item. Any other items to add to the agenda?
Is that new or unfinished?
Must be new.
That would be unfinished.
Well, we've never discussed what the process was or been informed of what the process was.
It
It was brought up
yes,
last
it was.
meeting, but then- not to that extent,
Right.
but it was brought up.
And
And I believe the village manager was directed to find a process, so
Correct.
that's why I just want the
So
status.
this is
That's-
a
So I
don't care
status,
where
it's
you wanna
existing
put it.
business.
Okay, where would you like to put it, guys?
You can even put it under
Unfinished
discussion if you
F?
want.
I would say,
F.
I would think it would be F under unfinished business.
Sure.
It is. Okay,
any
Thank you.
other items anyone wants to add?
Make a motion, we accept the agenda with the addition.
support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So with that addition, do we have anyone wants to approve the agenda?
You
I
just
think
need
we
to-
already have that?
Yeah.
Need, Bob
Oh,
just.
Bob, yeah,
yeah.
and you seconded.
And I
Okay,
seconded.
we voted. That's good. All right, now we have minutes from last meeting.
And there are corrections that Melanie provided to me and I failed to put into the minutes, so.
That's okay.
Yeah, I did notice one.
And I don't know if I have all of the ones, but I can tell you like some, or do you have them from what I originally?
I have your email,
Okay,
so if you just want to tell them what it
okay,
is.
yeah, so under public comments, under Tony, it was in support of, not if.
Right.
The next page, President Bryce, the Commission 2,
Yep.
new business, the 3rd paragraph, there was, instead of the.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd page, under wayfinding, some thinks, should be some things.
Very good.
Some people do think.
And then discussion items, Chairman Palshan requested. Now, there could be more, so
That's good.
I don't know, Adam, if you found them, that's the only ones I saw.
Any others? Okay, so let's entertain a motion to approve. The minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was
Opposed?
the support, Bryce?
Yep.
Thank you.
Opposed? Nobody. Okay. So then,
Public.
public comment. Are these on any subject or just subjects on the?
Or not on the agenda.
That are not on?
You address those.
Well, it doesn't
Do we have
specify,
any-
so I think it's public
I think
comment.
that's
I think it's
everything.
any public comment. Do we have any public comment? You guys? Okay. All right. Anyone else? Public. Well, we don't have any other public. Okay, so chairperson comments. I talked to Lee just a little while ago and he's had some major surgery in his sinuses, removed tumor on Friday. He was hoping to be all healed up and here today, but I told him that was pretty unrealistic, you know. Take a while, just relax and heal up and don't worry about it. So I also told him I'd call him and let him know what happened here tonight, because he's interested. So, you know. That's all I have to talk about at the moment. Any other comments from commissioners, items from commissioners?
I got one. The site plan from up there at the auto dealer with the guardrail where we approved the
Yep.
landscaping
Marsh.
still hasn't, there's nothing planted in front of that rail.
Oh, I saw some low-lying bushes in front of it.
Well, I didn't go up close, I'll take a look. I didn't go up real close, and nothing that you could see. But it could be something lower that's gotta grow yet, but I'll double check it.
He has also forgotten what he got approved for a sign.
Hmm.
Say that
You're
again.
talking about the, how it's
movement
being
and how it's
displayed.
doing what
Yes,
it's
I noticed
doing,
that
yes.
too.
Right,
So who follows through with that? Is that our village manager?
Typically, but it's a matter of getting him a letter that says, hey, this is what you got approved for, and you really need to make it do what you were permitted to do.
Can it do both the landscape and the sign?
I would think.
and if I may, the reason why probably the sign has changed, other than when it was approved, is the person that came in and got all the paperwork and did all the work on that is no longer with their company. So they may not be.
Oh, I'm sure that's why.
Yeah, there's a communication thing
It's a
there.
good reason.
Yeah.
I'd
New
buy it.
people do new things. They just don't know what the old things said.
They probably just need a reminder,
Yeah.
to make them aware of the restrictions, and then they'll probably.
It would be hopeful that they would comply.
Probably.
Well, and it would be nice, if you don't know that you need to be following something, you give that to them, you send a reminder, they can ask questions, then you start from there.
So we have a record of what decisions were made and permitted?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Either mail it or, of course you do.
That's all I got.
Anything else from my fellow commissioners? No?
I would like to say that I was really appreciative of the folks at the MSU Credit Union, because they did a really nice job of pulling that back barricades as they had said they would for September Fest.
Yep.
They were really cooperative in moving their cars out of the designated handicap that morning.
Where did they put that fencing? Is it,
They just squeezed it in
Pushed
real
it up
tight to
against
the
the
building.
building.
okay.
Yeah.
They moved a lot of their stuff out of there for the weekend and then pushed the fences right up to the, because the building still wasn't in a position to allow people to get near it. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to express my appreciation that they actually followed through with what they said and were really cooperative with us.
Anything else? Okay then, new business, plan review, 105 South Ortonville Road, Blackhawk Auto. So who would like to speak
Well,
on this?
may I offer a suggestion, sir?
Absolutely.
Typically what happens, and I know we haven't had very many of these, typically what happens at a planning commission meeting is the applicant has an opportunity to explain to you what they want to do, how they want to do, and that. After that, I will give you my input on it, and there's also a written document from the fire chief here.
Right.
But I think it'd be appropriate to let them start and explain what their desires are. Because my stuff has more to do with specific details on what's on the plan, how it gets enforced, that type of thing.
So is that Mr. Riley?
Yeah.
My name's Bob Lamrick. I'm going to be taking on the endeavor of the contractor. If you see on your site plan on the northeast corner, it shows a proposed structure, but that structure is actually there. it's not 80 foot wide, it's 45 foot wide by 50 foot deep. And Dave is proposing to add to the south side of that 20 feet to make that entire building 65 by 80, so actually smaller than what it shows on that site plan. I would imagine that site plan is quite old. So it's not going any farther back than the existing building that's already there. And he's gonna just be using it for storage, so he can take the stuff out of the building that he is working in now and move it for storage, so he can have an extra bay to do extra work. Basically about it. And it's gonna be the same structural as a pole barn as the existing building is.
Okay, can you just say one more time what the new proposed is going to be?
It's gonna be 20 foot wide by the same depth,
By what?
50 feet deep.
So the
Okay.
building is
So the
65
total
by-
bill is gonna be now 65 by 50 versus what it shows there is 80 by 50.
So you're talking about this building over there?
So I got 40 for numbers.
This
52.
building here.
Right.
Right now
It's
it's
gonna come 20 feet
20 feet
north,
out,
south.
20 feet south and
Yeah.
It seems like there's a
I
lot
got a
of
50 by
discrepancies
40,
on
a 20 by
existing
50.
sites.
This is south, is it not?
Yeah,
I think this is north.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just correct, yes.
yeah, that's my,
Okay.
What is it, 55? 55?
So which building are you heading
You
to?
already said 20 by 50.
We're adding.
The new.
Adding 20 by 50
Right.
onto an
This way,
existing 45 by 50.
Okay.
45.
Right now it's 45 by 50.
Just extending it out 20 more feet.
Correct,
So when did
yes.
it go from 32 to 45?
When they actually measured it.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed things moved around a lot on the lines too, once they had it settled in there.
And I think, Bill, you've got a plan of how we were gonna do it with the post and all that.
This was the latest version that
No, I
I
mean,
received.
I made copies of these a long time ago, I don't know if you, I think when I first
How the
came in.
building's built, we'll get into that
Yeah.
later. I'm not sure they're,
Yeah.
other than the style, I don't think they're really concerned so much.
And so that building is going to be used for what again?
Just for storage, because the building that he's in right now, which is 45 by 50, is getting cramped, so he wants to move all the stuff that he doesn't need on a day-to-day basis into that new structure, so he can open that bigger structure to have more clientele.
Okay, which is the 45 by 50?
What's that?
Because I'm not, no, that's, I got a 50 by 40, a 20 by 50, a 46 by 34.
That's the one you
This-
said that the numbers were
Yeah.
wrong.
This building, on the plan, it showed a future structure, but it's actually existing, but it's only 45 this way by 50 deep. We're gonna add on 20
Okay, because
feet.
somebody, I don't know, this was like this when I got it, existing
Right.
in 40, so it's really 45.
Right, correct,
So that's wrong too.
correct, 45.
Right.
So we're adding 20 by
Right.
50, so it'll be 65 wide by 50 deep.
By 50.
Correct.
And we're just going to be talking about the buildings tonight? I'm asking you. 'cause
No, I'm actually going to talk about a number of things.
Okay, and
That would be
can
a
well, one
start.
of them be the drives, so you can explain for
I was
me?
going to go through the whole thing when it's,
Beautiful,
as soon as the applicant's done.
okay.
You done? Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to take off from there then. What you have in front of you is this plan that was done by Giffords Webster back in 2003 for, I believe, a previous owner of J. Sweeney. It's quite apparent by the overheads I've seen and being by the property that this site plan was never fully executed.
Right.
Okay, the building, the front building, which you see with the hash lines, 46 by 34, is in place. There is concrete slabs both front and back, which is shown on there. However, what seems to be lacking is a designated parking area, which is clear on your site plan from back then, that shows handicap parking and additional parking spaces. It also shows on-site drainage capabilities, which I'm not sure that exists because I didn't really see it. if you'll notice, there's in the parking area that's striped, where it says 8 spaces, there's a little square there.
Yep.
That is actually a catch basin,
Right.
which is to have 125 feet of 12-inch pipe at a 5% slope back to another catch basin, which appears to be in the area that they want to put the addition. Of course, I'm not sure of that totally, because
No.
this drawing that you see here with the future building, the building wasn't actually built that way.
Right.
If you look at the overhead that I provided you from, I don't know, Property Gateway or GIS or whatever, that building appears to be on the property line at the north property line, where our ordinance requires that to meet a 10-foot setback, and it doesn't. So we're not gonna go back and make anybody move buildings or anything, but we have an existing non-conforming building. I guess that's where I have some difficulty, not necessarily with the current owner, because I'm sure he bought into a lot of this. Okay, he really hasn't done much to the site to, well, implement this, but he hasn't done much to the site to do other things either. So he didn't create this problem, but it does exist. So I guess my concern is that continued roofing of buildings providing a non-pervious surface is going to increase what has to happen with the water on that site. Well, clearly, back in '03, this site plan indicated that they wanted some way to control the water runoff from parking buildings. And you'll notice in the back corner it says detention area. Now that's not huge, but at the same time it's a place for that water to be detained before it runs either out into M15 or runs off onto the adjacent properties. So that was never installed. And then you'll notice there's an outlet, restrictor outlet, that goes to the property, and there's a real low area running across the Brendan Fletcher property. Well, now Barry Bass's property. And that's where that water was to drain to. I don't know where it goes today. I don't know how it gets where it's going, but I think it would make some sense to have the owner give us, at the very least, some type of a detail on how they're going to control the water runoff in this property, especially when it comes to adding more impervious surface, making the building bigger. Along with that, and the building that is clearly on the overhead in a position that it wasn't necessarily planned to be, especially by this plan, there was a 25-foot setback requirement for that building off of what would be the east property line. And the plans that were submitted really don't, the 25-foot is marked on this plan, but the existing building doesn't meet that setback. So I'm in a position where I have to say to you, as the planning commission, their request doesn't meet the ordinance for setbacks to the east property line. In which case you could remand this to the zoning board for a variance, or you could simply suggest to the owner they may come up with a different way to make this happen. But for me to issue a permit and for you to approve something that is in direct violation of the ordinance doesn't seem to be proper at all.
Well, you know when this building was built?
I have no idea when it was built.
I mean, how did they approve it way back when it was?
Well, it was built in the 50s, the front building. The back building was there when they got it. Kersley Creek runs around that whole back property. Water runs fine right into that creek. I don't know if you see it on that print, but Kersley Creek's less than 10 feet off the back property line and side property.
All the
Side
more reason
property
to
line.
find out what's
Yeah,
happening with the
that's-
water runoff.
From my perspective as a
But it
commissioner,
was there.
that would be even more of a concern for me, because due to the type of business being out of repair, you have vehicles that are in there for repairs, meaning that they could have damage where they're leaking fluids, like,
Yeah, but I'm
you
a
know,
clean person.
things like that could get into the creek, and that is a protected trout stream, so I really don't want to see.
Well,
stuff
see
going
where
in there
the
free-
creek
free
runs
flowing.
across the property on this side? Where I work out of is out of this side. I'm right next to the cable place.
And you never park any
Frontier.
vehicles in the back?
No, you go look. I keep my trailers there and they don't leak oil. Right now I have 6 trailers sitting there.
Parking is taking place over here, I
Yeah,
can see it by the overhead.
Well, I was gonna say then,
Yeah,
so
the
this
overhead
is where he's
shows a
not
number of
parking,
vehicles
is
over
where the
there.
cars are?
That's what he just.
Oh, okay.
Well, the cars are in the front of that building.
Bill, I have a
I don't
question for you
park
before we
here
move
anymore.
on. The
There's
setback
nothing
line
parked
in
All the
here,
cars are parked all
There's
along in
25
front of
feet.
this building.
already, the building is already over that, was that approved?
Well,
See, here's the problem, is that building clearly was not here on 7/1 of '03 because that's the date of this plan.
Correct.
So sometime between '03 and today, or obviously before today, somebody built that building in there and we have no records of it.
So what I'm saying is it already shows it was crossing the setback line. There's
Correct.
nothing that says that we approved
Correct,
this plan.
correct.
Okay. But we can't prove that we didn't.
I think it
Yeah,
just
but
went
I can
up.
prove that he never got a permit,
Yeah.
not necessarily the current
Right,
one, but
right.
somebody built that building without
Yeah,
benefit
they
of
just
a
didn't
building
come in.
permit.
It's also really clear that this plan from 2003 does not match the current existing structure that's there today.
Right.
And that's what
So,
I'm trying to piece
this
back as to
plan
how
is
that
not
happened, where's
accurate
there's a
to-
record of this.
This plan is not accurate.
Yeah,
to the
no,
current
it's
This
site
never
or
came
the
in
plan.
front of planning commission.
I've been trying to
Okay,
explain this, and the reason they're here tonight is I've been trying to explain this to them, that we need a current site plan for the existing site. But I thought, you know what, it's best just to bring it to the planning commission, let the planning commission help explain to the applicants, this is a commercial property. This has rules that the zoning ordinance requires it to have. This has setbacks that have to be met. And this plan, and really any just basic hand drawing, is not an acceptable document for the planning commission to approve.
Right.
So, there are a number of issues that our ordinance requires that's just not being provided for. I haven't got into the landscaping. We've
I was
only
gonna say, there is
we've only
none.
touched water runoff
Yeah.
and the plan that was submitted before that was never implemented, and the potential problems of any future development on that site being water runoff. The fire chief, he sent me a letter back that says, I'm not even reviewing this because this isn't even close to what's out there.
Okay.
And I need to know what's going on that site. It's an auto repair facility. We all need it, we all use it, and he has a lot of customers. Obviously, he needs additional space. I get that. However, we can only do that according to the ordinances that we have. So,
I don't see it on the application that was copied in with us here, but do we know what the current zoning of that property is?
yes, see, it's,
C currently? Commercial? Okay.
it's commercial.
Why does it say B2?
It said a B2
That must be
right
B
here.
before the
C.
ordinance is
That's what it was
changed.
back
Okay.
then, 1003.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we should really start
That is
with the
correct.
correct.
That's that, I'm
Blueprint.
looking on our map up there,
There's
it looks like it would be village residential according to
Yeah,
that.
we can sit here and discuss all
There's
this
two
with
lots
the
in
world,
there
and
that
it
are
doesn't make no
C.
difference.
Yeah.
That's true. Now,
Yeah.
These
Larry?
two lots, and he's one of them.
I put
Oh,
right on
okay,
the
okay.
agenda, the zoning and everything.
we've been here the same amount of time. It seems to me, this, since we've been on the planning commission, this has come up before for approval of that building. Do you remember that at all? I'm pretty sure
That
we
structure.
talked about this several years ago, and either before that building was being built or,
I'd have to look through my meeting notes and see if I could find
Would
that.
it
Pretty
have
sure
been
we
like
did.
2009?
well,
It would have had been sometime
We've been
between
in
2006 and now, I think. Or
2007
now, yeah.
It
So-
hasn't been since I've been on here.
Well,
right,
something
but
came.
you were 4 years after us.
Okay.
So,
When did you purchase the building? When did you start?
7 years ago.
Okay, so,
It was there when I bought.
2012.
But
And I came here and
2012 is
got
when you-
approved to run an auto
okay,
facility out of there.
okay, but that's when, and when you
Maybe
came,
that's what I
Chief
remember.
Wampus came through before I bought it and said, Dave, you need to do this, 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 and this, and I did what he wanted.
okay,
me
and
to
that
do.
building was there when you purchased it in
Yes.
2012? Okay, that's what I needed to know.
And I'm not suggesting anything has to change from what's there, but the additions, anything added to it surely should comply with
Yeah.
our ordinances or request a variance.
Well, in that case,
Shouldn't they have
The
it
ordinance
updated?
setback is 20 feet, or is it 25 feet?
I think it's at
They
25.
have a variance
For,
for the setback.
where?
Dated 2009, a site
Yeah.
plan for the parcel was discussed.
I thought so.
Ed Coy noted that Troy Cabarro,
Yeah, he was the guy.
The previous
Barry
owner?
Bass's brother rented it from Barry. Barry Bass owned it, that's who I bought it from.
the building extends into the rear setback. Ordinance state it has to be 25 feet, but wants to build 10 feet from the line and needs a variance. The minutes from a 2003 Planning Commission meeting indicate a hearing was held for the variance request, and a site plan has been approved.
Yeah, I thought so.
So the zoning board approved it, or just a
Well,
planning?
it further states that Ed Coy could not find the minutes for the zoning boards of appeals meeting that passed the variance.
So that's how I thought. I didn't see any record in there that gave it a variance at any point in time.
I think we recommended it from here.
Well,
It may not have
And
been,
then it was approved.
And without a doubt, that could have happened. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I'm doing your work today. And we all know the reasons for that. But trust me, you hired me to make sure that doesn't happen again, and so I'm here with that as information, so.
all right, so my question is, if,
So that building is only 10 foot from the lot line?
It's 10 foot from one and sitting on the other, which it's required to be
I think it's
10
back.
foot from the other one. It
Minutes.
doesn't even meet that.
According to
So
those minutes that passed, I mean, they approved
Well,
it?
it's suggested
the
there's.
one did.
Yeah, there's no,
The east property line got a variance by the way it sounds, although there's no paperwork to back that up.
correct.
The north property, however,
It's non-existent.
which, yeah, that 10-foot setback appears to be non-existent
Mhm.
according to the information we get from the county.
It does look pretty much like they put
And
it right on the property
yeah.
line.
And that doesn't show up anywhere in any minutes anyplace. I mean, not even planning commission
Well, who
minutes.
who would have approved that final inspection if it was that close to the lot line?
For which one?
For
You
that
don't want
building,
my
when they-
opinion on that.
Whenever the building was built.
And it's irrelevant.
And why was one addressed and not the other
I don't think,
at
yeah,
the
I
same
think
time for the same
the other
building?
one probably went up after and no one knew about it, Tanya, is
See,
what I'm thinking happened.
The reason we're having this discussion and the reason I wanted them to hear it from you is, that's why it's important to have site plans that indicate what, where, and when you're doing
Mhm.
something, so that in the future, you wanna do something else, you've got documents of how that happened. I have no idea how that building got there, and even what was on this proposed plan didn't get built that way.
all right,
By their own admission, it's smaller than what was there, but it's also not in the same place.
And you said that was 2009, which date?
2003 was the variance was approved by somebody. But there's
No,
no
no,
doubt.
that's when the,
2009.
Okay.
These
2003,
minutes
this
are
thing.
dated,
the 45 by 50 building was in 2009.
it was recommended
Would you mind reading it
from
one
the
more time?
planning commission,
September
but whether it
1st,
actually
2009.
got a variance from the zoning board is not clear.
So what was the 2003 that you spoke of?
That's
This
the original
plan.
site plan.
Will you read it one more time, please,
Okay.
Liz?
That whole section.
The minutes of the 2009, please.
Discussion was held in regards to site plan review for parcel. Ed Coy noted that Troy Cabarro was applying for building permit. The building that Troy Cabarro is building extends into the rear setback. Ordinance states it has to be 25 feet, but wants to build 10 feet from the line and needs a variance. The minutes from a 2003 Planning Commission meeting indicate a hearing was held for the variance request and a site plan had been approved. However, Ed Coy could not find the minutes for the zoning board of appeals that passed the variance request. Per village ordinance, site plans are only good for 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if I understand this, just to recap where we're at, this site plan came through in 2003 and it was approved for a variance. And it does show a 10-foot setback from the property line here, and it does show that it extends to within 10 feet of the rear setback. So that would be the one that the variance would have been based on. But when they actually built it in 2009, they didn't follow this site plan. They put it right up against the property line. And,
On the north side.
Yes.
yeah.
The rear setback.
And if this is yeah, so they should have submitted a new site plan at that time, apparently did not. And it seems like the drainage that was supposed to be in there was also not addressed, so, you know, nothing against you guys, I know this is like, not you guys that did this, but,
Right.
you know, obviously.
And the parking
past-
spaces as well.
The past owners did not follow the site plan, they did not build it according to the site plan, they did not perform all the things that were supposed to be done.
So Barry Bass was owned this building when this building went up
Yeah.
seriously. And when this site plan was applied.
I would suggest,
Yeah,
From my
I would suggest to the
perspective,
planning
Hey,
commission
one at a time.
that if, because of all of the difficulties with this site, that the petitioner should be told to bring you a drawing
Mhm,
as it is today,
mhm.
Right.
and then an additional drawing with what they propose to do.
Mhm.
yes.
Because if
Yeah.
this is a non-conforming use, I don't think you can even approve to expand a non-conforming use.
Oh,
I
So,
think the use is conforming.
do you?
Yeah.
Even
I
though
don't
it's,
wanna approve
it
anything
doesn't meet
about
the,
this.
It doesn't meet the setback, so it's the location doesn't, but the use of the property is right.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, the
gonna-
use is fine and that's not changing.
Yes.
but the building
But the
is
buildings
The building is
are
not like
non-conforming.
this.
is non-conforming
Not
to the ordinance.
correct.
So
The
you
building.
can't, and they're proposing to add to this building
Right.
to make it more non-conforming,
Mhm.
which you
Correct.
can't do.
Right.
But before you're really gonna be able to understand all this, you're gonna have to see two new drawings. One that shows exactly where everything is today and where it is afterwards. Because even if the variance is correct and they have done that, they didn't build it that way, by
Right.
the sounds of it.
Yeah, this
And
is.
so they didn't follow the ordinance that they got,
Obsolete.
the variance that they got, and as Liz has pointed out, that variance is only good for a year.
Yep.
So if they don't use it within a year, it's gone. So that variance is gone.
Yes.
If I could continue, I think I was. I just wanted to also state to you guys, as I said, it's not something you did.
Right.
We understand that. But at the same time, when something like this comes to us and we discover that it was not followed properly to begin with, this is where we really have the duty and obligation to say, okay, what wasn't done that should have been done? And that gives us the opportunity to make it right to the best that we can to fix up past people's mistakes. It's not that we are trying to do something like against you, but I think that the drainage
Well, no, it's
issue is
not
a
against
very
me, it's against
important
Barry
issue.
Bass, because he did it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, you take care of this, because he's the one, you guys have to get it from him. Me, I bought it as is, this is how I bought it.
Yep, and all
Okay.
I'm saying is that, at this point, we say, it
Mr.
wasn't done
Chairman,
this way, it
There
needs
is
to be
two
this way.
water catch
Cut-
spaces in the parking lot.
You need to wait.
We can't have this kind
Okay.
of discussion.
Yeah,
Just
you
wait.
need to address the chair if you want to talk and not
Okay.
just start
All
talking.
right.
Okay, so, you have any more to add?
No, that was just it, is that we need, our job is to make it right now, based on the current situation.
Well, it sounds
Well,
to
your
me
job is to evaluate what they're asking to do
Yep.
and determine if it can meet our ordinance to do that, or if it goes to the zoning board for an appeal to appeal that. But it's not your job to make their plan work. It's their job to present you a plan that works.
Yes.
We need a plan to begin with.
So, Bob,
I think it sounds like just from all the input that we're spinning wheels, we need a drawing that's current,
Yes.
and we need a drawing that's what's proposed, and that's pretty much it. I don't think we
You
can
need a
do,
new site, you need a new site.
Just wait until the chairman recognizes you.
I think that's pretty cut and dried of where we're at.
May I add that that is true, however, I think they also need to address the issues that weren't addressed.
drainage,
Drainage
And
being
parking.
one of them.
And you need a report from your fire chief, which you don't have because there's not adequate drawings. So
like,
at some point in time with this, I suggest to the planning commission that you table this until the proper documents are before you.
And I'm going to make a motion that we postpone, I think that's the official words to use by Robert's rules, that we postpone this item to the next planning commission meeting
Table it.
until we have,
Postpone.
until we have updated drawings of the current and proposed use.
Support.
Pursuant to
So-
your conversation this evening.
If I might suggest, on your motion, I think you should say it's also subject to getting a report from the fire chief on the matter, because there isn't any at this point in time, and a new updated report from the planner.
Okay. Can you include those items?
So until we receive updated drawings from petitioner, report, fire chief, and what was the third thing?
And an updated analysis by the building official.
Yes. Which we have.
Can we change that to fire inspector?
Yes,
It
we
does
can.
say that.
There is a fire
That should be it.
inspector.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Jason Wilkin, the fire
Yeah.
inspector.
Okay, can you read back my?
Can we just wait just a minute?
Yeah.
What's the origin of this plan? When do you guys make this plan?
Yeah, I
I'd just
do.
like to know that.
Correct, yes, I do.
Okay. So that,
Because when I first came in, I just wanted an idea of where the new building was going. You know, they didn't want any numbers or anything, it was just kind of a,
We had a discussion, I informed him that had nowhere near sufficient detail for the planning commission to address it. That's when this other drawing showed up.
okay.
okay. So we have a motion to postpone this discussion until after we get your report and fire chief's
Inspector.
report, but, well,
Pursuant to new
and
drawings.
two, at least one or two new drawings.
Mr. Chairman, can we have the recording secretary read the motion back, please?
Motion by Hayden, supported by MacArthur to postpone the item to the next planning commission meeting or until an updated drawings from petitioner are received, a report from the fire inspector is received, and analysis of the building official, or by the building official.
Sounds correct?
Okay?
So you're saying you want a current site plan
Correct.
and a drawing of the new addition?
And a proposed site plan.
Propose for the new site?
Correct.
For
Yeah.
the
For what you
new
wanna add.
addition.
Yeah, what the new addition.
Yeah.
Because this one is obsolete and wasn't.
Well, I know that's what was given to me by Barry, and
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
wasn't followed in.
for me to know what he did and what went on back then, I have to get with him and
Yeah.
tell him he needs to contact you guys, and you guys need to.
But he,
you
does
know,
he,
No,
oh,
what?
No, it's not him that needs to
Yeah.
get a hold of the village, it's
You
you.
own it.
you own
I'm
it.
the one that's making the proposal.
Yeah.
Oh, for the addition. Right, but I'm saying for what's there, I can't.
Well, you are responsible for what's there because you now own it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're responsible for any conditions that exist there.
oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
The former owner, unless you have some
Well, I thought you
legal
wanted a
reason.
site back from
No,
then.
unless you have a
I
legal
have
reason
no
to
way.
deal with him about
Oh,
something
no,
that happened, and that's
no,
entirely
no.
up to you. The village won't be involved
I
in
see
that.
what you're saying. I thought you wanted the original copy. back.
No.
Okay, so
We have a second.
we have a second. So, all in favor of this motion? Aye. Opposed? No. Thank you very much, Bill and David and Bob.
Thank you for your time. Sorry we couldn't come to
It is what it is.
Right,
completion yet. so-
it's just not there yet.
Yeah, we're just getting a site plan.
But it's a good business,
Current
Oh,
site
yeah.
plan.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
good business. Used it by a lot of folks, and they have to see in there.
All right, thank you for your time.
You gotta do what you gotta
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
I will let you guys know. Yep.
Sure. Okay.
Good day.
You too, thank you.
Oh, no, I just threw
What
it
is
out there.
PIN 0307354009?
Property identification number.
Okay, so that's all regards to this one.
Yep.
And I thought I would be able to access somebody's credit card.
Okay. Thank you, Dale, for keeping us on track there. Unfinished business. Zoning ordinance committee update. All right, who has something about that?
Do we have a?
Do we have a
committee yet?
zoning ordinance committee?
No, I think it was sent off to the village council to, for the zoning ordinance review by the
By
planner.
professional?
We were supposed to hire somebody,
Right.
correct, that's what we
Well, we had
did at the last
suggested
meeting.
You
that we
recommended
need
that.
somebody.
To the village council, and I'm recommending to the village council at the next council meeting that they and empower us to send out RFPs for planning firms.
Okay.
Sounds good. So, wayfinding committee, do we have a wayfinding committee here?
We
in the
do.
council? And in this commission?
We are going to meet sometime in October. Not sure when yet, but we are going to actually have somebody that comes out from Oakland County and they'll do a tech visit and they'll find out what we need and have a consultant work with us as far as the wayfinding signs. And one of the examples they gave to us is that they recently did was Lake Orion's. So if you want to get online and kind of look at Lake Orion signs, that's an example they gave to us. But other than that, we haven't done anything until they come out and meet with us.
Okay, and that's through the Oakland County on Main Street?
Correct.
And it should be clear that the wayfinding committee is an appointment of the village council.
Right.
The village council will act on recommendations from the wayfinding committee, but neither the planning commission nor the DDA or any other body is in charge of what the final decision is.
Right.
They can all make recommendations, but it's controlled by village council. And I think it's important that that's remembered.
And is there a member of the council, I think, Mark Robbins?
Yes,
He's on the committee too.
he's the chairman.
Okay. So that part's pretty
And
obvious.
he's been doing well at sharing updates with us and keeping council informed, so it's been good.
And I think it shows goodwill on the part of the council to make that a joint committee between the different boards to be able to get input from all the boards, so we can collaborate together on that topic.
And it'll be
So
an
I
exciting
appreciate it.
collaboration.
There was some recommendations from the initial committee meeting for some minor things that, with regard to signs, that I've instructed our DPW people to take care of, and they have. There's
Oh.
some areas where we've cleaned up brush and done other things to make the signs more viewable. But that's the only thing that has been done.
Oh, can somebody update the committee then, what was done? Because a lot of what we thought would happen, I haven't seen it, so that would be great if we could be updated.
Okay, anything more on wayfinding? No? Our next unfinished business is our Ortonville Wildlife Preservation Park. Who would like to discuss this?
Lee actually asked me to put that on there, so.
You did.
Who did?
Lee.
Lee Passion, and I asked if he wanted me to leave it on there, and he said yes, because perhaps you guys would like to discuss it amongst yourselves.
Well, currently, there was a motion passed by council to develop an ordinance that outlines specific things that were included in the motion to create the ordinance. I have prepared a rough draft of that ordinance and sent it to our attorney to review. I have not added anything other than what was included in the verbiage of the motion in the ordinance, and don't intend to. But the ordinance will come back to the council for review, and if they want to add more things or request more additions to it, they can do so. But that process is going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I guess I'll throw this in for the discussion, is there was a letter to the paper from Lois Robinson raising several
Robbins.
concerns. Lois Robbins, yeah. I got Robinson, Wayfern, yeah. But Lois Robinson sent a letter to the paper, and she raised several concerns about whether this motion and the way the ordinance was made could potentially violate certain aspects of the Parks and Recs plan and our agreements with the township, and also the covenants. And I myself also have a concern with that, because the actual, the actual covenants, property shall be used for public park purposes only. And then it states, shall not be used as an amusement park or for extensive and or continual commercial purposes. And my concern is that the way it's worded, it basically states that the property is not to be used for any purpose other than wildlife preservation. And to me, that seems to be contradictory to the covenant. So I think that the way that the motion was worded may actually be violating the covenants. And I'm hoping that maybe the attorneys, when they're reviewing that, can clarify whether there are any concerns with any of these issues. I'm assuming that they will have to look in all those aspects of it.
Well, I have reviewed the letter and not thoroughly yet, but cursory review of it. And at this point in time, I don't think that there's anything that's contained in those allegations that requires us to hire an attorney to evaluate. I think we need to look at what they are. Some of them are simply her opinion of where they are with that, but it's not a person who has legal training that I'm aware of, whether she does or doesn't. Some of the allegations like that of violations that it causes isn't grounds for us to go and hire somebody to make that review, if we can make the determination that it's not. And most of what she has in the letter, I believe, are not correct.
Well, as I said, I'm a little concerned because the actual wording of the motion that Dan made does seem to me contradictory to use as a public park, when he says only preservation of the wildlife and
Well,
habitat.
But one of the uses that you can make of public land is open space.
It doesn't say public land.
No,
it says public
but
park.
this is a restrictive covenant in the deed. As long as you don't violate what it says, you can do whatever you want to do. And the only real restrictions are amusement park and some of those other things. So within those parameters, as long as you're not violating those broad strokes that they put in there, you can do anything you want. And we have two legal opinions, and I've just recently sent to council the essence of what those two opinions said.
So,
And I didn't receive a copy of that letter.
with regards to one of the things that Lois brought up in her letter, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan very clearly states that, first of all, that is once it's approved, and it was by the village council, that is the guide for decision-making for that park. And it includes in there recommendations to have trails of various sorts, nature trails, biking trails,
What does?
the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Okay, but this right now is village property
I know.
only.
I know.
It is not a township park or a joint park. So nothing in what we have at this point in time would require us to put in paths. It may be something that the council chooses to do, or that the citizens want done. But and that will take some additional research as well. But at this point in time, what's done with that park is entirely within the purview of the village,
I know
the
that.
village council.
And both signatories of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, it says in there that this will be, once it's decided, once it's signed, that will be the guideline to make any improvements in all the parks that are included in there, including that one. And so if that's what was agreed to by the council, then what they've now agreed to goes contrary to that. It would appear.
I mean, for what it's worth, I don't agree with what you just said,
Okay.
but
Have you read
it'll take
the,
more research.
have you read the Parks and Recreation
No.
Master Plan?
No, I mean, the current Parks and Recreation Plan, I have not seen, but they're in the process of amending it. And I don't think I've seen that document either.
Mhm.
And it's one of the notes that I made to myself, I want to get a clearer view of what that relationship is. Whether or not the Parks and Rec Department are gonna have jurisdiction over that, or be given jurisdiction over that. That would have to happen, because otherwise, they don't have. Just the Brandon Township Parks and Recreation Department.
No, we're not talking about the township.
The
In
plan
this.
is a
Master
joint
plan, not the department.
Okay, it's a joint plan, but that joint plan, as however it's amended, will have to be approved both by the village and by the township. So whatever it may say at this point in time isn't necessarily what it's gonna say. If you were talking about what exists in the ordinance, that yes, controls.
I was gonna say, I think that's Rick's concern, is at this point with our current master plan,
Which we
there is a
are
concern.
operating
We don't know what the new one will be.
No, but the two master plans we're supposed to be operating under at this time. And 2 years and 5 months ago, when this was first proposed and voted on, pretty clearly say that that we were to pursue trails, picnic areas, or gazebo. The word gazebo was put in there too.
In the old,
In our village park.
In our current master plan.
in the
In our
current
current master plan,
recreation max.
Parks and Recreation
In our
master
current
plan as
master
well.
plan too, I think.
Well, then we had to
It's
take
less
everything
clear
out.
in the
Well, in the current
master
plan.
plan.
Mhm.
It's much more clear in the Parks and Recreation master plan, which we have with the township. So, anyway, we could talk about that all night, but we won't. Just from my standpoint, as a natural resource career person, pretty much all of what they proposed was inappropriate for our park, but again, that apparently doesn't matter. And so, if you're a wildlife manager and somebody comes along and puts this label on a park that doesn't really match what the park presents or what exists there, it's kind of like concerning, but I guess it doesn't matter. It's just, it would be as if, an attorney saw something and put something quite inappropriate, and you'd say, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, until the final decisions are made on all these things, everything matters,
Okay,
I think.
anyway,
Well, it's our job to do our due diligence and
Right.
yes, that's true.
make sure.
But all we can do.
And I think it's been great to have feedback from the planning commission, from DDA, from council, from our residents. It's great to hear residents talking about where can they find this information, how can they be involved, how can they educate themselves, and that's been exciting to me, is that we have people stepping forward, requesting information, wanting to learn more. And I think that's great.
I think the survey spoke for themselves too, with what the residents wanted, and that's why it's so disheartening that we were basing our master plan off of some of the surveys of what the residents wanted in the future, and we are picking and choosing, and I don't think it's appropriate, but things can change.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't want to take a second shot until everybody has a chance first, though. Do you have any?
Well, I think I've heard mine several times, not happy with it, but it is what it is for now.
You're right on. Things can
You
change.
can spin your wheels and get ticked off all you want, but until we get something moving.
The only other concern I would have with the way that that motion went through also is the fact that it was expressed at the council meeting that there were concerns that Dan Eschman may have a conflict of interest according to our village conflict of interest policy. I had that concern myself, and I've also heard several residents voice that same concern, that they feel there's a conflict of interest there. If it was found down the road that there actually was a true conflict of interest by the person making the motion and voting on it, how would that impact any enforceability of the ordinance?
Well, that's really a legal question that I'm not going to try to answer.
But it's, I just
think
want to
that-
raise that something to
I think
consider.
that the issue of whether the council made a determination that there was a conflict of interest is settled. No motion was made to have him removed due to a conflict of interest, made or supported. It was suggested that it should happen. The non-action by the council, in effect, judged that he didn't have a conflict of interest. He stated that he didn't believe that he did. But the council could have taken action
Right.
to remove him or have him step down as being in conflict. If they had chosen, they didn't. Now, an outside litigant claiming that there was a conflict and he shouldn't have voted, yes, that's a possibility in a lawsuit, but it would take a separate lawsuit challenging the action. You know, just the fact that somebody says that somebody has a conflict doesn't mean they do. And you have to go by what the record is that's put forward. So that issue as to that meeting and that is settled. It is what it is. It doesn't mean that the same issue couldn't be raised again in a different circumstance, but it would have to be somewhat related. Conflict of interest is a, we have
I'm gonna make a motion.
we have a policy on conflict. The state has a policy.
Gotta make a motion.
But the primary emphasis of all of that leans toward having a pecuniary interest. Now, pecuniary can be defined in many different ways. And so it doesn't have to mean that you actually get or lose dollars by doing it. That's the most common thing. Like if you have an ownership interest or you're going to get a profit from it.
Monetary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's some monetary effect. And as a lawyer, I could make an argument on both sides of that issue with regard to that particular instance.
Well, our particular village policy that we all voted on and approved as a council and all signed copies of goes beyond just the pecuniary interest. It also says if you are unable to remain objective in consideration of an issue, then you should remove yourself as a conflict of interest.
And it
I
also
think
says
that's
to remove
where we
yourself.
have the-
What's that?
It also says to remove yourself. Council is not responsible for removing you, remove
Yeah,
yourself.
I think
We
that
all
is
signed
where-
stating we will remove ourselves.
And he didn't, so.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, council doesn't make a motion, we sign saying we
No,
will
no, no,
remove
no, no,
ourselves.
no. A
Could.
motion
Only
should have
thing I'm
been
saying is
made and
it
could have
could
been made by
But he made the
you,
representation.
yes, you can make a
Not
motion to
according to our
remove him.
policy.
Yes, you can. You
But
could
by
have
law
made
you
a motion to
All right,
remove him.
right.
You could have.
One at a
It
time.
was just a boo-boo. Now you guys know.
No,
I doubt a
I
motion
don't
like
agree
that
that it
would
was an
pass.
error. It was what happened.
Right. But they could have, and nobody did, but I thought it's because they chose not to. But it was because they didn't think about it. And that's fine. Things can change. Guys, it's not set and just, I wouldn't waste any more energy on it.
I
I
do know
wouldn't.
that even members who supported the motion and voted in favor of it did express that, well, they didn't, it seemed like they didn't seem to think that that means that it would exclude walking or footpaths in the park. So I think that hopefully on review, we can get some moderation to the exact wording from that original ordinance to try to make it so that it does allow accessibility and walkability in terms of rustic footpaths or something like that, but we'll have to see.
Mhm.
So one point about that was, it was mentioned several times in that meeting and in the same meeting 2 years or 5 months ago that the trails are already there, meaning the trails are there for people to use. And we can use that. We can agree with that and take parts of the trails that are existing, take Chief Quapis and Lieutenant Glover's statements that if we're gonna have a trail in there, it needs to be such that they can get in with their four-wheeler
Some kind of a
equipment.
rescue vehicle or something.
Yes, and that is another reason to have an entrance. I mean,
A
you have
public
to have an
entrance.
entrance
Public.
for them to be able to get in there with their equipment. So that's all just fine. We can work with that. And I think eventually we will. Yes. Any more statements, questions about this
To
part?
be continued.
Yes, well, I'm sure. Master plan draft review, where are we at with the master plan?
I have the master plan.
No way.
So I will be making copies tomorrow. They'll be hand delivered to the village council and planning commission. I do have 2 copies currently made tonight. I could probably give one to Tanya and one to Larry. But I have not had a chance to review it to make sure all the changes
Oh, boy.
Is that your job?
Well, it makes things easier if I get the chance to do
Make sure
it.
we get what we pay for.
Yep.
So,
You can hang on to mine if you
It's
need
been
one.
this long, we wait and make sure it's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
so,
I can swing by later in the week, pick it up, because I'm gonna be
okay.
working from.
Well, I'm working all day on Friday, so I have plenty of time to make copies. But I haven't, just haven't had a chance to verify the changes are as requested.
Well, that's good news.
With the maps even, so.
It will be really nice to
So far, so
have
good.
something that we can finalize, hopefully.
Right.
Thank you, Liz, for all of the work that
Yep.
you've been doing.
Oh, sure.
All of the work, and all of the work, and even all of the work.
Speaking of master plan review, how has things been going with getting some detailed explanation on the building from McKenna?
It's not as detailed as we would like it still, is that correct?
I didn't hear the question.
How are things going with getting the detailed explanation of the building from McKenna?
Oh, it's not sufficient yet. I mean, we've gotten some response back from them, and they made some effort at it, but it's still not what I've told them that I want. And so I'm gonna continue to,
We've withheld 2 invoices so far.
yeah, they're just not gonna get paid until they get us what we need. It's a general, it's typical for planning firms and some attorneys' firms to make like a generalized description of what they do in a paragraph, and then an amount. Sometimes they'll say how many hours that amount is. But what I'm more used to seeing and expect from them is who did it, what did they spend, and what's the time allocation for each step of it. Because that helps also if you look at it and somebody says, well, they drafted a letter and it took them 2 hours. It's like, I'm not paying 2 hours for you to draft a letter. So, go back and figure it out again. and sometimes that's why they don't want to do that, because they don't want you to see how they came up with their total.
Or who did it.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
you
a
have
generalized
higher up-
thing, and it's
You have a
like,
higher up directing somebody else to do it, the higher up is the rate you get charged.
yeah, and that's why there's different rates, is that if you have someone, and I think that's particularly true with them with some of the review stuff. They are charging us, I think, at the principal's rate, and I'll guarantee you,
Yeah.
the principal did not go through and do those things.
We're not
hope
charged the
that
same
with our
primary.
return.
Well,
Well, it had-
and even if
but-
they did, you'd say that's your problem, it wasn't appropriate. You could have had a secretary do that same thing, or you could have had one of your first-year planners do that.
However, that is not exclusionary for McKenna. There are other
sure.
planning firms, they've all learned from each other.
Yeah, you have to educate them from your end.
Yeah.
Well,
We
thank
quite
you for
often
being
with the
fiscally
planners-
responsible and pursuing it, even though they're being difficult.
Yeah.
It's important. Thank you.
Well, I would think the incentive to them is they probably would like to be paid.
Yeah.
And I've made it clear in a couple
That's
letters, they're not
incentive.
getting, I'm not approving those invoices until I see the detail. And not necessarily then.
Thank you.
All right, how about our CIP? Do we have any updates on it?
No updates on that, but at the village council meeting, there were a couple of equipment approvals that will be added to the CIP as already completed. One was the salter, and the other one was the new mower. I can't recall off the top of my head the costs for each. The salter was $5,688, and the mower is something like $11,000 or $12,000.
Seems to me
Can't
it's a little
remember.
more than that,
I
but
thought it was like 13 or 14.
What kind of mower did they get?
I could check my
It's
email.
I believe it's a big zero-turn mower.
Yeah, for 11,000, yeah, that would be a big.
Yeah, that was
zero
our
turn.
last council meeting.
Is it new?
Pretty
They
much-
buy it.
Yeah.
It will be new, it
Yeah.
hasn't been purchased yet.
That's pretty much the going rate for
Commercial
that.
units, yeah.
And Bob's very particular about it being diesel-powered, not gas-powered, because they last longer.
They do.
Could get a Yugo for that.
So CIP will have updates on it next month.
Do you still think?
All right, good. Any discussion from commissioners or?
We need
We
F.
have F.
F, status of,
Oh, I thought we had
Thank you, Bill.
F, that's right.
the status of the
Where did I write
plan
that?
commissioners.
How about my turn, because I do have something I want to discuss here. So,
Yeah, $13,095.
Okay.
What kind was it, just out of,
Kubota ZD-1211-60 commercial mower.
you go, Bob. 60.
What?
Yeah,
60 inch.
60
I'm
inch.
assuming that means 60 inch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Awesome.
so,
All right.
What?
All right, so who can give the status of what's going on? Are you the one that's investigating how to look to fill seats? Or
Well-
is it still at council level? We don't know what's going on.
yeah, right now it is, I'm still reviewing the data on that, but the procedure is very clear. The village president recommends appointments to the planning commission and to the village council, and village council votes to approve or disapprove those. That's by state law, that's by,
Oh, yeah, we're fine with that. What have you done for the process? You were gonna check in the surrounding communities or something, is what I read in minutes someplace, to see how other areas were filling the seats of planning commissioners. I read that in the minutes from, I think, one of your meetings.
I think that was for future.
Well, this
I know
is
council
future.
requested for this, for it to be
for
posted.
salaries, I said that. But
I don't know.
Well, I'm saying with regard to these appointments, it's pretty clear what the process has to be. The fact that the village has allowed some other things to creep into this may be something we have to look at and verbalize better. But for instance, the planning commission has no part in making the decision. They have no way or no appropriateness in interviewing potential clients or potential commissioners. They can make recommendations, but one of the insinuations with some of this was that it had to go through the planning commission first, and that's not true. The village president, without ever talking to the planning commission or anyone else, can make a recommendation for an appointment. She is likely to listen to what happens, and usually a planning commission, if it's members who are already existing on the planning commission, they'll send a recommendation to the village council. They really should be sending a recommendation to the village president for her to act.
And we did.
Okay, well, I'm just,
And that's-
So.
you asked me what the process was, and I'm.
But no,
Actually,
okay.
I think that
And
Dale's
I'm
right. I
just-
think in the past, we sent the recommendation to council, and we should have just sent it directly to the village president. We recommend.
Would that have mattered?
Consideration.
All right, did you not bring it up for, correct, for both of them to be Okay, so
I
you
believe
did bring it
your
up for you
question
guys to
is, where
vote
are we
on.
currently on the process?
I'm just trying to
Isn't that
get
your
that.
question?
I'm trying to get that info.
So Liz, was that posted in the paper? Because I know that was, and I'm not pointing at you, but I know council requested that. Did we get to that
Right.
point yet, or we're still kind of working on?
No,
Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
That's okay.
And I don't remember seeing anything that told us to post it in the paper.
Councils at, was that August, not September, that was August, requested there to be a 2-week posting for interested people to be, and you can look it up to be
Yeah.
sure, but that was
And I don't
what
think it was
council,
necessarily for planning commission, it was for
Any
committee,
vacant,
any committee.
any of the
yeah.
vacancies.
Yeah, I
You don't
don't
have any
recall
other
if it was
commissions you appoint,
specifically,
DDA still has seats available, as does planning commission, yes, and they
Right,
both
and
would like to
It
have,
wasn't for anything
Full.
specific, it was just that it in general.
to state that, and then we talked about better posting it on the website to
yeah.
let people know that there is a possibility of
So
terms
what is
coming up,
your-
or there's
I don't
open
remember.
seats.
What
Did
is
we
your
act-
date?
Was it actually to post the position?
I remember them saying they would like to see 2 weeks, but like I said, we can go back and verify that.
You think
That is
that's
what I
in the
remember from
agenda?
August.
So nothing
Because
has happened
They
with
said,
these guys?
No.
for Bob to stay until a posting has been made, and that was the discussion. So at this point, Bob was
I'm in
approved to
limbo.
stay,
Mm-hmm.
and to continue. Thank you for filling in until we get ourselves organized.
Yeah, I do remember that Dale was going to look into ways to make the, all open positions available or known to the public.
And like he said, that was the next round,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be aware and to have them
And we
posted
just
when they're
will have
coming up.
something on our website that says, here are the terms that are ending.
And we could probably also post notice on in here too, so people can see it if they happen to come.
And bring it up at the meeting.
Okay, so then for Bob and Patty, so are we gonna post something and in 2 weeks from now, we'll know if anyone else is interested?
We're not at the point of having any dates set for anything yet.
Okay, so we're gonna let these 2 seats go in limbo for another year? I just roughly wanna know what the procedure is, since there is a procedure. That way we know what the procedure is. So the procedure is,
I don't
when
think
you
we
guys
have a
feel like
procedure,
posting?
that was a request from council. The
We need to-
procedure is, I appoint, they approve. Other
You
than that, there's no
recommend. You
procedure.
recommend it.
You recommend,
You
if you choose.
recommend.
I appoint, they approve.
I think the only,
I don't know, point is quite the right word.
I think the only
For her,
process
she-
or
Is- that's what it
procedure
says.
that they
She
were,
can't
that maybe the council was looking for is a procedure or process on how to
publicized.
gather available
Approve.
candidates for the position.
And that's
And
what I
people
thought
don't know
the
that.
village
That's
manager
what
was
I'm
working on.
going to present at some point in time, but it
Yeah.
won't be at this meeting.
So am I posting something in the paper? and
Yeah, not.
We have to verify that that's the discussion in August, but that's what I remember.
Well, I do what I'm told, so.
We know that.
And she's the one in charge.
Again, we
he's
need
the
to
one in charge
review
of me.
that that's what it
That's
said. But that's where, I remember it left
Since she's in
last.
charge of candidate selection, so to speak, or whatever, I will say that it's her lead to help guide what should be done.
Well, I did already appoint, too.
Try.
We'll go from there.
Yeah, you appointed and the council did not approve. Hopefully we can reappoint and get some better approval. But we'll see.
So
Okay.
the
So there is no
legal
closing date of this.
process, the legal process is that the village president makes her appointment or recommendation for filling planning commission vacancies, and the council approves or disapproves.
Right.
That's the only legal part of it.
That's
The rest of
That's
it,
right.
we have to,
It's just
we don't have
process.
to, but we would like to come up with some kind of process for
And the
letting
village
people
manager is
know that
supposed
there's
to.
openings.
Yeah.
And that's about all. Because we used to, when we got on, it was a matter of coming before the planning commission and saying why we were interested. And then in this case, Lee made a recommendation to the council president, who was,
Wayne,
no, it was way before Wayne.
before Wayne,
Mhm.
Kenny?
Sue Best now.
No, after Sue Bass,
Kenny,
Kenny.
Quisenberry.
Oh, yeah.
Quisenberry, that's who it was.
Mhm.
So that was the process back then, but that obviously was not a proper legal process.
Well, they've
Well,
got
I mean,
there.
we could use that process.
It's not
as long-
illegal, it's not illegal process. It is not, it's not a necessary step
Right.
by law.
It's not required.
But making a recommendation is a nice gesture by planning commission. President can choose to do with it what they choose or not.
Right.
But it's nice to have a recommendation from those that are involved and invested. It's nice to know. I mean,
Well,
I don't think anybody's
That's
discouraging
what you
that
did
at all.
the first time around when I was first appointed.
and I had to come and interview for my job I was doing for several years.
And I think all of our
After the
past
fact.
presidents have liked to have that
At the
input
start,
and requested it.
I don't have no issue with it at all.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see if they'll fire me or not.
Well, yeah, and that's why I thought you've been very patient, and I know I talked to Patty, and that's why I was wondering, is there any end date then? Do you think maybe before Christmas, maybe you guys will decide to let Bob know?
Well, that's why I say having an
Hopefully we'll have it
MTC
done
is kind of
sooner
hard
than
in the
later.
middle of all these new zoning changes and updates.
Actually, I'm just enjoying it more out in the public
There you go.
than what you could ever imagine.
I know the council
It's a lot of
also
fun.
was throwing out, some people were throwing out the idea, do we need a 7-member planning commission?
Right. And do we need a 7-member council? Because we can
I
go to
would-
5 on the village council.
I really think that, from my perspective, I think that it is good having 7, because you can see we have, when we have a couple people out, it's good to have more heads putting together on a lot of these topics, because you get more ideas and stuff to come in. And especially if there's a lot of stuff with the ordinances, more eyes on it will give us a better overview. I think. That's just my thoughts.
And it's definitely going to be a big load this upcoming year with the projects. So it
Absolutely.
would be nice.
And once the master plan is approved, we've got a lot of work with the zoning ordinance. I remember the last time, that was a big ordeal to go.
Yeah. So sooner than later would be great. to
Mhm.
They
get
only got
Bob in.
partway to where they really need to go, I think, so.
So is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any others? Okay.
Now, just-
That's unfinished business. Discussion item.
Just one, I'd like to thank you this evening for your input with the applicant. There was a reason I had them submit their information, as you probably got a drift of, and especially listening to the applicant and the way he was coming across. He wasn't buying that there are requirements, and what they submitted was clearly a response that I got. I copied the ordinance for them, which there's 11 sections, and the last section has 22 specific items they're supposed to bring on their site plan. We were lucky to get the name of who applied, let alone any other information, and outdated information at that. That's what frustrated the chief. Yeah, but I went ahead and pushed it to come this direction so that the applicant would understand. This isn't, you write it on a napkin, bring it down, and we give you a permit anymore. This is, you gotta follow the program.
Yep.
So thank you very much for
Thank you,
Oh, yeah.
actually. Thank you for
humoring me,
being.
because that's pretty much what it was, but it making sure the point got across to the applicant. We're gonna do this professionally, we're not gonna just,
And I think it makes a big difference because they mellowed quick about, yeah, okay, that's what we're gonna do. I mean, they give in, because it's a board.
yeah, oh yeah. For
I mean,
me,
it's-
they were fighting me tooth and nail all the way.
you know.
Really?
Oh, big time.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely,
giving me a hard
they were not,
It
I said
had
to
to
Liz,
be
we're
once
sending
I-
it to planning commission, what they bring us, and then we'll see what happens.
Once I saw that site plan, it's like, I cannot believe
This thing?
that Bill is even looking at this thing.
I didn't,
I said, I cannot believe that, it's actually even coming, but now I see why.
yeah. So with that discussion item, was since they were gone, I just let you know why this happened the way it did, and I appreciate your,
I think that's the way it should. personally,
yeah.
You know, Liz, I was curious, is the
So,
scanned copy of the application exactly what you received from them? Because, I mean, there's no information filled out in that. That's all that they put in?
Yep.
Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think that it should be that unless they have that form completely filled out, we should not even have it on. the
And
agenda.
I have waived the having your signature notarized too, because it says you have to have your signature. No, I've been waiving that because,
If you go to your zoning ordinance, page 59, 60, and
Oh,
61, if you don't have to have it with you, but at some time, read through what they're required to bring, and I copied this and gave it to these guys.
Okay.
You said 59?
Yes, page
59
59.
through
61.
61?
It's the review procedure. Planning Commission shall be the body charged with, and away it goes. And under section 3, a person seeking site plan review with the objective of obtaining a building permit shall submit, and away we go. And they barely got one done.
Well, you have a
Out of-
specific checklist that you go when
It's
you.
right here.
I mean,
Yeah.
the
The whole
thing.
thing's in there, yeah, and they couldn't seem to get that through their head.
Well, now they've got a
So,
chance
but
to
that's why I
redo
say,
it. And,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
well, we thank you
And
for your
trust
input.
me, the word around town will spread pretty quickly.
And, you know, the thing is that, just as I was trying to state to them, it's not that we don't want to
No, because he has a
help
good
them
business.
and,
Mhm.
you know, encourage businesses and not that we're willing to consider those things, but we also have to make sure that we are also protecting all the other property owners and residents around the area. And like I said, is if that feeds into Cures the Creek, that was a very valid point you raised about the drainage. I think that's a significant consideration that we
I
have
do
to
too.
address.
And you can believe that 2 seconds outside that door, they had no thought of you like that.
That might be.
Exactly.
Well, they've already indicated that I'm here killing business and all this.
No,
Well,
I'm
not. That's not my, if that's what happens, I guess, but I'm here to do a job, there it is.
And I can understand their frustration of what was dumped
Oh,
in their
likely.
lap, and they had no idea until they looked at it. Now they've looked at it, now they have to decide what their next step is.
Right,
Plain and simple.
right.
Maybe I had a little previous insight because this gentleman had a property in Brandon Township before he moved over here.
That'd be good.
So I've already had history, if you want to
I
call
will
it
say
that.
this, way back in the past, as a council member, ex-planning commissioner from way back, and doing zoning board of appeals back in like the 90s and early 2000s, it always frustrated me how much it just seemed like people would just say, do what they wanted to do, and then it was just like, well, what are we gonna do? I guess we have to grant it, and they would just rubber stamp, and it's like, I always felt that, no, this is wrong. If it's not correct and they don't have a real hardship, then we shouldn't be granting variances. We should be scrutinizing these things more closely and making sure that they stick to what they say they're gonna do.
Your local and surrounding community has finally caught on to what the requirements are to grant a variance. And if you don't meet those requirements, you don't get it. There was 4 that went last meeting over there and 2 got denied. 2 get approved, 2 did get approved, but the hardship was relative to the land.
Mhm.
Makes perfect sense, but not just because I want a bigger building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're catching on, they're getting there.
Thank you.
It's like
So did
fences.
you have a review on the fence? I don't want to drag it out because I want to make sure we get out of here. But that
We have not
fence,
had another
the-
review yet.
It hasn't come back.
hasn't
It's
come
coming back,
But the
right.
fence is still there, right?
Because, right, they were waiting for the input and the feedback, and then it's going to.
Do we
With
When
the
somebody
zoning.
applies to the Board of Appeals, it stays any action. So nothing stays any
Nothing.
action. I
Okay.
can't, we can't
Right,
move forward
until-
on anything until there's a resolution by the
Do we have
zoning
any,
board. But trust me, when the zoning board speaks, and if it's not in their favor, action
We
will
intend to bring it
start.
back at the next meeting.
okay.
Well, we have to schedule a zoning board meeting,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so we need to be directed to schedule that meeting.
That's what I asked you.
Who?
And I answered too. You didn't get it?
I got your
Okay,
answer,
right.
but I might take it that we're just go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have a ZBA meeting this month then.
So, Bill, does that
If we've got
constitute
time left to.
another?
That usually goes before your council meeting.
Yeah.
Does that constitute?
We can figure that out later.
Yeah,
When you come to the
Okay,
20th.
so,
Mhm.
Oh, it'll have to get in this weekend.
It is a public hearing.
So I make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
wait.
Discussion item.
Any commissioners have any more discussion?
Or Dale,
Four?
or Liz.
Well, I'm not done yet. I'm turning this way.
Going around?
Dale, do
No.
you have anything
he
more?
loses
Liz,
his
do you have
sense of
anything more?
humor when he becomes in charge.
And Bill, you've already given
I
us.
did.
He's so
All right, I don't have any more either. Now, go ahead,
I
Bob.
have a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Please.
All right, all in favor?
Please.
Aye.
Aye.